Life in Cyber, let's do it.
I've got Peyton into Avatar.
Yeah.
Nice.
Speaking of Avatar, on getting her into Invader Zim. Speaking of Avatar,
our guest tonight is Kenny.
Hello.
Kenny. Tell us about yourself, Kenny.
He's on the show every day.
You don't even give me an intro like I did for you? Come on, man.
I don't even know what to tell, man. There's too much.
I literally made it up for you. I was like, this is our CEO, our fearless leader, and what do I get? This is Kenny. To be fair, this is how I introduce myself, so it's actually kind of reasonable.
You introduced yourself with your name. That's
so fun story. I was joining a presentation at work where I was working with my boss on a proposal for something. We'll say something. And we ended up having to do this proposal with the entire committee, and we were like going over it with the chancellor. And the chancellor came in and was like introducing herself and all of that. But I was late to this because they put it in a conference room that's really hard to find, and I had never been to it. So I walked in a couple minutes late, and the chancellor beelined to me, tried to shake my hand, and said, "Hello, I'm blah blah blah." I'm not using names because I don't know if they like want to be called out here. I immediately shook their hand, said, "Hi, I'm Kenny," and I sat down. And that was it. What I heard later on was that every other person in the room said, "Hi, I'm blank, blank, blank. I work here. This is what I do. This is how I contribute to this project, etc." I did none of that. I just said, "I'm Kenny," and I sat down.
I love
it. Yeah, this intro works for me.
I get caught in those situations all the time, talking to contractors. We'll have our project managers like, "Well, I'm blah, 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 and I do this, and I've been here for 13 or something years," and I'm like, yeah, I'm Josh.
What's up?
I do the security stuff.
I hate those. I have no desire to know how many years people have been with an organization or what they do.
I think sometimes it's relevant, but
yeah,
not frequently, I guess.
Not when it goes on for 20 minutes in a 30-minute meeting. I've had a few of those.
Salespeople. They're like, "I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm your customer advocate. You need to call me if you have any issues."
And then, so what would you like with me to share about myself? Do you want to know like career path? Do you want to know personal stuff? Do you want me to just blab about myself for the next 45 minutes? Like, what do you want?
Let's try to keep it under 30.
Just me monologue for 30 minutes?
No. All right.
When did you first touch a computer?
Oh my God.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Let's go back further into time. Where are you from, Kenny?
So I was born in a small town called Whitten, California, but I don't know that place at all. My family's from Pueblo, Colorado, grew up there, been there since I was 2, went to college there, graduated and left, moved to Denver in 2011, and I've been here ever since. So I am not a Coloradan by birth, but I am a quote-unquote native nonetheless.
Nice. So in Shannon fashion, when did you choose to move away from Shannon?
I chose to move away from Shannon the second I freaking met him. We hated each other when we first met. No, I'm kidding.
I don't remember this.
We actually did not like each other. So Shannon and I first met when I was working at a computer shop in high school, and he worked there for like 3 weeks, and I was a little hotshot 15-year-old doing what the boss says, and Shannon was over like doing something, and I don't remember what it was doing, but I wanted to like double check that he did it correct, and so I wanted to go and double check it, and we got in a little spat because I was a little cocky teenager. And he thought I was annoying. And to be fair, I was annoying. So I deserved that. But we became good friends in college. And I left Shannon in 2011 to move to Denver for work. But for a while there, I lived just down the street from him. I used to walk over to his house at 7 a.m. and start shoveling rocks in his driveway to make him get up and do his yard work. And he would get so mad He'd walk out and he'd just glare at me and be like, "Screw you!" And he'd grab a shovel and get to work. I think his wife liked it, but he definitely did not.
Don't remember it. Probably happened.
Definitely did.
Speaking earlier before we started this portion of the podcast, obviously you said you skipped a grade. I think we've all known this. Where'd that come from? Where did you just like skip fifth grade, fourth grade? Like, obviously you were an intelligent young man, got a little cocky around Shannon, but um,
I mean, to be fair, I was kind of cocky for a long time, and it's still debatable whether I am. I think I've tempered it, but that stuck with me as a personality trait for quite a while. It's improved, but yeah, it is what it is. Um, I will say it started kind of when I was like teeny tiny. Like I started reading books when I was, a baby. I was able to read chapter books by the time I was 3 years old. My mom had me reading like Stephen King before I ever hit kindergarten. Um, so once I was going through elementary school, it kind of became an issue. So they had
hmm.
me in like gifted programs trying to figure out what I did and didn't know. Because what my mom would do, before I went into elementary school, is she would just find whatever educational material she could in the library, like videos, whatever, just bring it home and have me do it. And so third grade, they actually kind of pulled me out of the third grade and they just had me do tests all day until I failed. And it took them months. And I didn't fail one until I hit algebra. They had me do IQ tests. They had me do reading tests. They had me do all kinds of stuff. It was weird. I spent most of my time with the group of kids that were deaf, so I hung out with them a lot. I learned a little bit of sign language. Um, yeah, it was weird not being a part of class, and I ended up skipping the fourth grade. They had me teed up to actually skip 3 grades, but after skipping the fourth grade, I didn't really develop socially very well. So they decided that was a bad idea. So we didn't do that anymore. So I just kind of went through school bored out of my mind after that, and I learned to be okay with it. I was in gifted programs through middle school. I actually went through normal stuff in high school, but I did like AP courses and stuff. But in high school, I decided that girls were cool, and so I started getting more social at that point. It took a while. But it was difficult. I moved around a lot as well. I was in like a different school for every year for a long time. I didn't actually settle until high school, so kind of hard to make friends when you're moving that much. But yeah, it just kind of it was a little difficult. But I would say now, as an adult looking back, I don't think I would ever recommend skipping a grade for any student ever. I think any sort of gifted program or whatever is good. But if you really don't think that school is like serving their needs, like skipping a grade isn't really going to help them. I think finding a better school would be better. Because of I just see the way that it kind of stunted my own social development. I really don't think it's a good thing. But yeah, I graduated high school at 17. I graduated college at 21. I kind of went through life a little young. I'm in a leadership role in IT at 35. Honestly, I think I hit this role at 32. So I feel like I've kind of done the learning and the career stuff at an accelerated pace. I'm not sure that I would recommend it. I think it's stressful. I think there's certain things that I kind of gave up to make that work, and I still think the social stuff is a weird topic. But yeah, it was both good and bad. We'll say that.
So when did you first touch a computer?
When did I first touch a computer? That's a good question. Um, does a gaming console count,
It's a
or are you
type
talking
of
like an
computer.
actual computer?
What got you interested in computers? I'll
Okay,
put it that way.
those
What
are
was
two
your
different
segue?
questions. So when I first touched a computer was the third grade. We had a computer lab at the elementary school I was at, and I played Oregon Trail. That did not get my interest. Um, the interest came in high school, I think. I learned a very good skill from my grandfather, which was problem solving. And so we did a lot of work around the house and stuff. He did a lot of handyman work, and I learned a lot of that. And when I was in high school, I started taking some more interesting courses like Photoshop, AutoCAD, stuff like that. And I found that they came really easily to me. And so I kind of leaned into that and just started, taking things apart and trying to figure out how they work. So the first thing I took apart was a radio. And I wasn't able to put it back together, but I learned more about how it worked. It was like, oh, interesting. Speakers have magnets in them. That's cool. I wonder why that is, that kind of thing. My grandpa challenged me to, if I'm going to take something apart, make sure I could put it back together. And I don't think I ever figured that out. But during high school, we were talking about, college options. I was initially going to go into psychology. And I already signed up and enrolled for it. I was going to go to UNC in Greeley. Like there was all kinds of things teed up for that. But it was this like newfound interest in computers, and my mom saying, that's probably something interesting. Why don't you see if you could volunteer somewhere? And so I called every computer shop in Pueblo, and that's how I started working at that computer shop I met you at, Shannon. Was I just said, hey, would you take on a volunteer after school? I'd love to just come and learn what you all do, and that's how that worked.
So, when you were in computer class, did you also name all of the people that you traveled with in Oregon Trail after your family?
No, what is wrong with you?
I, I just named all the people that I traveled with in Oregon Trail after my family, and my sister died several times of either dysentery or when I tried to ford the river.
No, I made up random names for all of them. I let my fantasy games stay fantasy, okay? I'm not trying to
See,
kill my sister from a snake bite.
she could have died of that too, but it was mainly trying to get across the river and getting sick.
What was the profession you usually chose when you were doing Oregon Trail?
Carpenter, I think.
Oh, I always did doctor, so
That explains.
nobody died from
Probably.
dysentery in my Oregon Trail. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's probably the river.
It probably was, yeah.
So, do you consider the computer shop your first job, or when we all met together at the call center?
I definitely consider the computer shop my first job. So I volunteered there. I started volunteering at the age of 15. I wasn't old enough to get a worker's permit. And on my 16th birthday, the owner there gave me a job and gave me my first computer that was mine, not the family computer. And it was a Windows 98 second edition HP used computer that he just had sitting in the back. And I almost cried. It was the coolest gift I'd ever gotten. And he paid me $5 an hour, even though minimum wage was $5.15 at the time. And I was happy with that. And I worked with a lot of the guys there. I have to give a shout out to Joe, who kind of took me under his wing at that time, and I learned a lot from him, and that kind of got me started on the whole career path. So kind of interesting to see how that's panned out over the years. But yeah, no, that was that I consider that my first job, and then technically the call center wasn't even my second job. It was the help desk at CSU Pueblo. The call center was my third job. And I worked at the call center at the same time as the help desk. I did not quit the help desk to go there.
Which computer job do you hate? Reflecting, which of your jobs did you like the least?
Out of all of the jobs, out of all the things I've had. So, all right, let's reflect for a moment. What have I done? So I did the computer shop. I also, at the computer shop, I quit for a little bit and came back to work at a gaming center called Code Blue that the same owner was running. Um, I did the help desk at CSU. I did the call center for Motorola. I did I was a work study at the elementary school for a bit, and then they hired me full time after I graduated from college. Then I was a network engineer slash consultant for Icon, and then came here to CU Denver. So out of all of that, I would say the call center was probably my least favorite. Although a couple of them are kind of close. I think working for the startup, the small consulting company was not my favorite. It just, it was a little too small, a little too stressful for my taste, but a little too close to home, I guess. Like it kind of like engulfed you the entire life. And I'm not sure I liked that very much. Um, but the call center was bad because it was very inhuman. It was all about metrics that didn't make any sense. Like if their executives were visiting that day, you weren't even allowed to read a book. If there weren't calls coming in, you just had to sit there. You weren't allowed to do anything. Like, and to be fair, like since I worked the night and weekend shift, like I was avoiding execs and bosses all the time. I automated my job for the most part, and I just walked around the call center playing chess with people. So
This is true.
I definitely do not think that that was my favorite job at all. And in fact, I was offered to be promoted, and I told them no, thank you.
And did you or did you not participate in a prank against me and steal my keys?
I have done that numerous times. Yes,
That's on the record now.
I will plead the fifth on multiple other ones, but not that one. I'll own that one. For the record, by the way, we stole his keys and made him do what we called the long walk. We take his car keys and go put them in a parking lot down the road in a different organization. And he'd have to walk down the road, find his keys, and then go get his car. I was totally fine with that. I thought it was funny.
Hate all of you.
It wasn't even the worst prank I've ever done. It's actually one of the most tame ones I've ever done.
Which job did you learn the most at? Or have you learned the most?
Oh, that's a tough one. It depends. Are you talking technical or just any skill at all?
Let's stick to what you went to college for.
That doesn't answer the question
Technical,
at all.
I think, is what he's asking.
Yes.
From a technical perspective, I learned the most working at the consulting job. It was a short time. I was only there for a couple years, but I got certified to the teeth on that. I think I got 15 or 16 certifications working there. And I gotta get my feet wet in a lot of industries, right? We did banks, healthcare, um, we did schools, we did law firms, we did retail, we did so many different places, network, VoIP, wireless. We did all kinds of things like that, and I had a blast learning all of that. The stress level was a bit much, and the way that it kind of engulfed life was a bit much. But good lord, did I learn a lot on the technical side? That one kind of brought me to the forefront of what I could do. And because I was so good at like learning the technical stuff, that's why they had me get so many certs so we could sell products, right? That like I was the cert monkey, so to speak, in the group, so we could go and sell different products to different people whenever a need came our way. So it was interesting. It was a lot of fun. I won't badmouth that other than just the stress level and the lack of work life balance, but the actual opportunity from an educational perspective was second to none. Like that was hands down one of the best decisions I ever made.
So would you recommend that as a second step for new graduates to look at kind of like an MSP or an integration company to take their career to the next level quickly? Or would you tell them to go get something and kind of low and slow burn their career to expand their experience?
I don't know if I would recommend them taking the exact path I did. Like I said, it kind of is. It's not really healthy.
Not your
But
entire path, just going from, new grad to like an MSP to where you get
yeah,
hands on with multiple different
I
products.
think working for an MSP is a fantastic learning opportunity, right? So anybody who doesn't know that concept, MSP is managed service provider, right? They provide services to numerous customers, right? It's essentially like outsourcing. Fantastic opportunity to learn. However, MSPs have become highly efficient, where like their entry level positions, you're mostly just like a help desk. So I'm not sure that that's the best opportunity. To me, and I'm a little biased in this front. I really think that the best way to get started, if you don't have a good starting point, is student employment. If you're in college, right? A work study job is one of the best ways to like get your hands dirty and your feet wet right when you get started. So that way, when you do graduate, you can jump into one of those roles quickly. Um, After you graduate, you're going to want to find literally anything. Like the advice I give to people is I think of careers as, and this is going to be kind of, what's the word? Um,
Preachy.
no, well, preachy, sure. I mean, in the sense of cliche. Cliche is probably better. I think of
I'll
careers in
go
like a
with
tree,
preachy.
right? So if you're talking about an IT career, like you've got the base of your tree, your foundation. This is your roots, and then the like the stump, so to speak. That's like your A plus, security plus, net plus. Your college degree, your base level education. Then you've got the trunk, and then you got your branches, right? The trunk is what I call the the intermediate slash figure it out phase. That's where really like my advice to anybody is try as much as you can, because technology is such a broad career. And there's so many different things you could go into that you need to find out what you like and don't like, right? So a help desk is a great way to start that, but sysadmin is another good way. Work study positions is another good way. Any opportunity that lets you touch a lot of different technologies, that's the best opportunity you can take. Or a lot of different industries, right? So like an MSP is a good opportunity in that front as well. But the concept of it would be try as much as you can, as quickly as you can, like whether that be development, whether that be networking, sysadmin, server admin, cloud computing, whatever it is, project management. If you can get your feet wet in any of those and see just kind of what speaks to you, what you're naturally good at, that's when you move up to the next phase, which is the branches, which is specialization, right? You don't specialize the second you graduate college. You got to figure out what you're good at first. And don't lean into something just because that's what makes the money. Lean into your strength. If you don't love what you do in technology, you're not going to do it. Like we've talked about this numerous times on this podcast. Like you have to constantly be reading and doing, whether it be in your job or your free time, in order to keep up and be modern and be up to date. Like if you don't love it and you don't have an interest in it, it's not for you. So you have to figure that out during that figure out stage before you go and like, move on and spend all this time in your professional career. But on the other side of it, like if you do something for a few years and you don't like it, it's not that hard to jump over to something else. So try as much as you can. That's my advice.
Now that we've learned a little bit about your beginnings, how has your IT career evolved over time? And did you actually specialize in anything?
Ooh, that's a good question. I did not specialize in anything. So the way I describe my career to people is hold on, I need to use my hands. Breadth, not depth. So if you take a look at the certifications I've got, they're all over the place. I've got, I started with the A plus, I got the security plus, I went CCNA, I got a lot of like randoms, like networking certifications. So it was like CCNA, then it was like CCNA security for firewalls, then it was wireless, then it was voice, then it was voicemail, and then it was all of these like random things. And then I just randomly jumped to ITIL. I did some Microsoft certifications for a little bit. Like I've been all over the place from a learning perspective. And the way that I've targeted my skill set is I want to be as versatile as I can. And that's how I find my value, because I think my strength lies in small and medium businesses. And small and medium businesses have you wear a lot of hats. You don't really have the opportunity to specialize. I would say that networking is kind of my specialty just from my time at that consulting job, because I learned a lot about it. But I'm also incredibly well versed in server, virtualization, infrastructure, management, Active Directory, all of that kind of stuff, like device management, overall enterprise stuff, like software management. Like I can do just about anything. And that's kind of the way that I've targeted my skill set, is if you throw anything at me, I can figure it out. I could even do databases, even though I freaking hate it. I can do it. They're boring, but I can do it. I can do some programming if I have to. I've done web development. I've done all kinds of stuff. Like I'm all over the place. And that's my personal preference. I think specialization can be a flaw, and it's often the best earning type of opportunity, and it works for most people. But to me, it's less resilient in the case of a market shift, right? So I want myself to be as versatile when the market shifts as possible. But also, I've been moving up in leadership, and I feel like knowing enough about everything to make good decisions is really important, right? So that's where I don't go super deep on topics. I go enough where I understand something to know whether or not it's the right direction for my team. And then I let my team be the experts. So I will say, as far as like career went, I did not expect to move into leadership. I didn't want it. I didn't choose it. It just kind of happened. I wanted to be a tech. I wanted to be a sysadmin. I worked alone on most of my projects, and I loved that. Where I am at the university is the first time I worked with a team, and anybody that worked with me when I first started there, I'm sorry, it was not great. I did not know how to work with other people, and it took me a while. And I think I kind of honed my skills of being a good team player, and I honed my skills of being a good manager there. And I didn't even apply for a manager job when it happened. They're just like, hey, you're a sysadmin. Also, here's some student employees that we didn't tell you about. You're a manager now. What? Okay. And then the manager role, kind of like that promotion just kind of came naturally. And the director role also just kind of like happened. It wasn't something that I was necessarily like aiming for. I never targeted it. I've never wanted to be in charge. But now that I've seen that I can make good decisions and I'm sound at it and I'm enjoying like helping others build their careers, now I'm actively pursuing it. And it wasn't on purpose. And I think that's kind of what's made me good at it, is because I never wanted it in the first place. It's not about my own personal success anymore. It's about the success of everyone that works with me. Like I always draw a diagram with folks. I'm like, if you look at this as like, one of those arcs from Stonehenge where you've got the two pillars on each side and the one across, which one do you think I am? And the team, by default, if they don't know me very well yet, they think that I'm the one on the top and they're the ones supporting me. And I'm like, I disagree. I'm one of the ones supporting you. And if I'm not, then I'm not doing my job correctly. And so that's the way that I tend to kind of like treat my people now. I didn't at first, I'll say that. It definitely took me a while to figure that out. But that's the way that I kind of run things. So no specialty. And I think that that's a good thing.
Well, other than Dr. Borton being heard a little bit about you not liking database, that's a really good way of looking at it. For somebody else who has been in leadership roles a lot, that kind of shows me a little bit of evolution as it came to Kenny. What really continued to motivate you in the IT field, since now you're moving more out of the, hey, I'm not in the trenches anymore, I'm now trying to support my team. What continues to motivate Kenny?
So that's an interesting thing. I actually just had this conversation earlier today. Um, my motivation isn't the same as a lot of people. Like most people that you'll talk to in a career, they think that it's like personal success or more money or job titles or whatever. I actually achieved what I ever dreamed 10 years ago. Like my dream for myself when I was in college was to make 65,000 a year because I thought that was unattainable. Because I grew up in poverty. I had never seen anyone in my family ever make more than $12 an hour. And so I thought anything above $15 an hour was a damn miracle. And I never thought that I would ever do that. And I did that 10 years ago as a system administrator. And nowadays that sounds completely asinine. It's just how I grew up. I have struggled ever since I hit that milestone wanting more. And it's because at some point, like the way that I grew up, when are you just grateful for what you have? Right. And that's what my family always taught me growing up is you need to just be grateful for what you have. And it's because we didn't really have much and you need to find happiness in that anyway. Right. And so I never really wanted more. And so that's why when I kind of progress in my career now, it's not about the money. And it's not necessarily about happiness either, because I don't think it's about me. Right. So like I'm considering opportunities right now and I'm thinking about what's best for the university, what will help the students the most, because I'm fine where I'm at. I don't have to move. I don't have to shift. I'm quite happy being a mentor. But if I were to move up, would this be best for them? Would this position me to help them better? Right. And so the way that I'm motivated now, and I know this sounds cliche and a lot of people are going to say I'm lying. I don't care what you think. This is how my motivation works. This is how my brain is. How can I help people better? That's it. That's all I want to do is help others because I feel like I've helped myself plenty.
Which is really cool to say that you've made it that far in such a short period of time. So now that you've made it to this point, did you ever feel that you had imposter syndrome or any setbacks along the way?
All the time. I still have it right now. So this is funny. My therapist actually has this kind of broken down. She says anybody that is reasonably competent at what they do will have imposter syndrome because the more you know about something, the more you know what you don't know. To this day, I struggle with understanding how I compare to others because I've always kind of worked in a silo, right? So what I think is normal for me and the standard that I hold for myself is very different than what the world has for other people. And so I think the bare minimum is like saying I'm going to do something and then get it done right now. But apparently a lot of people promise that they're going to do something and then they just never do it. Right. And so there's a lot of people who are impressed by things that I think are simple courtesies as a human being. And so when I'm like looking at positions that I'm looking at or applying for so I can help, boost a university in this way or help this program in another way, I look at it as like, okay, I'm probably not qualified for this, but I'm going to throw my name in the hat and just see what they think. And I will walk in humble and I'll see how the conversation goes. And there are times where I'm like applying and I'm going up and competing against CIOs and I'm like, there's no way that I'm even considered. And yet I'm getting interviews anyway. And I'll tell you right now, that is still bizarre to me. I don't understand that. I don't see how I stand up to executives. I don't. I think I just do what's good for people and I come in and I help others and that's it. And I do my best to do that as best as I can. But I don't necessarily put myself on the same like rung as all of these people that I look up to. And then sometimes after I work with them for a while, I'm like, oh, now I get it. But then I look at it as, okay, but I still look up to you a lot, right? I'll say this to the three of you. I look up to all of you every day. And I'm not sure how I compare to either of you.
Including Shannon? I'm just kidding.
Okay, maybe
Shannon.
hold on.
Shannon.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But no, like I very much struggle with that because I tend to kind of do things on my own. I do things in my own head. I make up my own frameworks, and I'm just like, yeah, I kind of took this idea that I saw with like Cisco's PPDIOO, and I like adjusted it to this so that it's smaller, a little bit more efficient for our team. I know it's not great, but it'll work. And everybody's like, what are you kidding? What are you talking about? You took a framework and made it work for your team. Like, shut up. I don't know, man. So there are things that I think are small and simple, but they have more impact than I realize sometimes, and I'm starting to see that.
All right, I have one last question for you. Then, you mentioned about looking up, and when you're sitting at the bottom of the career ladder, it's pretty easy to look up, right? Because there's a lot of people ahead of you. So finding your mentors are pretty easy. I view all you guys as my mentor. I really do. I have other people out in the industry, but I look at you for mentorship as well. Who are you? Who do you look up to for mentorship?
Ooh, that's tough. I have a lot. I think everybody needs mentors, but I think the best you can do is be open minded on your mentorship, right? You can learn things from anyone, right? So even some of my students who work for me, I look up to them a great deal. Like I think I've got a student working for me right now. I look up to her so much because of how confident she is in herself, and I always try to mimic that whenever I can. But right now, one of my best mentors that I've learned the most from is my current boss. His name's Doug, and I think I'm excited that he's probably going to join us on the cast here soon. He's going to be fantastic. I've had plenty of others over the years. I could call out like Howard, Maya, Joe, all of you. There are so many that I could name. A lot of them aren't alive anymore. But whenever I have an opportunity, and this is kind of the way that I look at it, is if I'm in a room and I can sense that there is something I can learn from you, we're going out for coffee at a minimum. And I'm just going to pick your brain. And I am totally fine, like just reaching out to anyone and saying, hey, I would like to, I think you're smarter than me. I'd like to learn some stuff from you. Let's have a conversation. And I don't mind how awkward it is or how it starts. However you could get started is better than nothing, right? A lot of people really like talking about themselves. So if you're just like, hey, I just want to see how you think about this topic a little, again, can I buy you coffee? Something like that. I do that all the time. I'm a huge fan of mentorship, and I think it is the most important part of your career. And anyone who doesn't have a mentor, find one. And if you know someone who you think is smarter than you, start there.
That's the best place to start. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Pizza. Pizza has been hanging out behind you for a while, sneaking around.
Pizza's my cat. She's 11 years old. I got her shortly after I started working at the university. She is not as fat as she looks. She's a little overweight, but not so much she has to be on a diet. She's 18 pounds, which the vet says it's not bad until she's 20. But no, she's fantastic. She's the best pet I've ever had. She's very loud. She's chatty. She will yell at me constantly unless I give her what she wants, and I will always fold. We cuddle together. We sleep together. She's my best friend. Sorry, Shannon.
I've seen the videos, and I see how you two fight. It entertains me.
We do argue a lot, and what he's talking about is I do have a Snapchat, and I don't actually like social media. I don't actually like Snapchat, but I consider Snapchat to be Snapcat. And so what I do is I take videos of my cat and send it to anybody who will watch it, and that's enough for me.
I hear like meow, and then Kenny, shut up! I fed you already.
You mentioned bowling during my interview, and I know that's one of those things that people don't really know about you. And I think you mentioned it a few times on the cast, but you were pretty damn good. Tell us a little bit about your bowling career before we jump into quick fire.
That's a good one. I didn't even remember that. So when I grew up in a bowling family. So for generations, my family has been good at bowling. My grandpa was in tournaments and stuff, got 300s. My mom, my uncles, and it's been passed down to me. I grew up in a bowling alley, so to speak, right? Like 5 years old, I'm running around playing at the arcade, watching people getting hit on by old ladies, whatever it is. I have done quite a bit with bowling. So when I was a teenager, I did leagues and I did tournaments, and I would consider it quote unquote semi pro. I could have gone pro if I had the money to travel to events. I was one of the best singles bowlers for my age group at the time. I did okay in doubles. Teams I always struggled with, but I didn't get good with teams until I was 27 years old anyway, in general. So, but as a singles bowler, I did fantastic. I never had my own gear. The ball that I had was donated to me by a group who just tried to help low income families. It was never actually like right size for me or anything like that, and I still did well. Like one of my tournaments that I did really well in was in a small town called Palmer Lake, and my average across 6 games was 250. My highest game is a 256, which isn't that great if you think compare that to pros, but I was pretty good. My average with a house ball, which is oily, damaged, all of that, was like 180, 185. I never had my own shoes. I rented or borrowed everything. What I had was at the bowling alley when I grew up in, they did a little deal where once a week you could get a free game if you were a student. So I did that until I was 18 years old. I got my free game and I practiced every week. And sometimes they did $1 a game. So if my mom had an extra dollar, I'd get to do 2 games. So it was kind of fun. I have considered getting back into it, but I don't know. It's different now. Now the bowling alleys charge per hour, and it's really expensive. And I'm tempted to just kind of like leave that behind. Like my competitive spirit has kind of died off over the years. I find that competing with people just stresses me out, so I tend to just kind of let it go. I was a coach for a while too. I forgot to mention that. That's something you and I have in common, Josh. I coached when I was in college bowling leagues for children, and I did that for about 2 years. So that was fun.
Nice. I was going to ask for a follow-up to see if you wanted to do it as a retirement plan, but I guess we're done with bowling. And bowling is extremely expensive.
Maybe as a retirement plan. If I win the lottery or something.
Go hustle some kids.
Oh, so speaking of, this is a fun story. When I was in college, there was one semester that I couldn't afford textbooks. So I went to the bowling alley with $30, and I did color pin bowling, which is kind of the bowling version of gambling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like gambling. It is not my thing. But this was the thing where I'm like, you know what? I bet I could sneak away with textbook money. So I did it the one time. I showed up. Nobody knew who I was. And everybody there was a little territorial. And so they're like, hey, I bet you won't hit that strike right now. I'm like, all right. I'd hit the strike. They're like, double or nothing. Okay. I'd hit it again. And then if there wasn't a bet, I would just kind of like I would kind of be nonchalant. So I was kind of being a shark about it. But then they would get upset because they lost the other bet. So they come up and they're like, double or nothing again. I walked out that night with $400 and I paid for my textbooks.
Nice. One of my favorite memories of Kenny, and I say this because I have had issues. So one of my favorite recent memories from Kenny is he came down for a holiday. I think it was a Christmas holiday, something like that. And he just looked absolutely destroyed and tired. And he was telling me about how he finally moved his bed upstairs, but Pizza, the cat, refused to go upstairs. And I think this was a lover's quarrel between the two of them. He decided that he would climb up to the loft and he would go to bed, but Pizza would stay downstairs. And did she just like scream at you all night to keep you awake?
So the apartment I had was a studio apartment with a small loft, and the loft was considered unlivable space because they weren't able to get stairs constructed that would pass city code. So they just abandoned the idea. But I really wanted the loft, so I got a ladder. And it took me forever to get my bed up there, by the way, because I carried that mattress up the ladder by myself. I figured it out, and it sucked. But at first it wasn't an issue, but after a while, Pizza kind of got a little bit bad at jumping. So she doesn't climb the ladder. What she would do is she would jump on a counter, jump on top of the fridge, jump on top of the cabinet, jump on top of a banister, and then go over the wall to get into the loft. She was fine with that for a bit. But after a while, she refused to do it. I think jumping down kind of hurt her joints or something as she got older. And so when I would go up to go to bed, she would just stay downstairs and scream all night long. And man, did that upset me. And I cannot, like, I'm kind of a light sleeper, so I can't sleep through that. So for, I think it was like 4 months, as much as I had the bed upstairs, I would just sleep on the couch. And I eventually built a wall mounted staircase so she could get up there easier.
The entire time down here, he just vented, and we brainstormed about creating that staircase system up to the vault to where she could get up there. If she wasn't 18, 20 pounds, it would have probably been easier and it wouldn't have been an issue. But
look at that lady.
Get out a little pulley ladder. All right, get on. All right, rapid fire. Here you go. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Marvel or DC?
Ooh, that's tough. Marvel.
Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones?
Lord of the Rings.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, man. I would have said Star Wars until recently. Rewatching Star Wars changes my opinion. I like Star Trek better now.
Mac or PC?
Depends on the situation. I am not an Apple fanboy by any means, but I'm not a hater either. I like Apple products for mobile. I like PC for gaming. I like Chrome for simple work stuff. I like Linux for a lot of other things. Like I consider myself, what do you call it? Vendor neutral. So I don't know if that's a democratic answer, but if I had, well, I was a network engineer off of a Mac. I don't know. PC is just easier, but I don't really care. Honestly, you hand me whatever, I'll figure it out.
Favorite streaming service?
Like video streaming?
Video, audio, whatever.
I'm going to say YouTube. I don't know.
Okay.
I did the Netflix Disney Plus grind for a long time, and I don't like the way they've gone lately. So YouTube probably.
That's completely fair. I'm probably in that same boat sometime soon. And then favorite hobby or vacation?
Oh, that's a tough one. I am known for having a bajillion hobbies, and they change frequently because I just really like learning stuff. Vacations, I haven't been on a lot. I've never been, I never traveled very much, and I need to do that more. Hello, Toby Dog. Oh, geez. I'm thinking my favorite hobby is one of the creative ones. I do a lot of 3D printing. I do a lot of painting. I like doing art stuff. I have a terrarium back here that I did for my vacation last week. Yeah, I'll just say art stuff. I'm going to leave that kind of open-ended because how that manifests changes a lot.
And so is art. So that works. All right, Kenny, you're officially off the hot seat. Seriously? I guess we have our new guest. New episode. Here we go. Let's start a new one. But thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe, click like, the bell, all that jazz.
I love you.
Bye.
Oh.